Today, we are announcing that we are launching a constitutional challenge to the federal government on the Equalization program. The provincial government has repeatedly, over several different administrations representing both major parties, said that the Equalization program is unfair and penalizes Newfoundland and Labrador. Our concerns have not been addressed. They have been dismissed. Equalization was intended to ensure provincial governments have sufficient revenues to provide comparable levels of public services at comparable levels of taxation. Essentially, fairness for all citizens. As currently designed, equalization does not achieve this objective for the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. The Constitution Act of 1982 states, and I'll quote, "Parliament and the Government of Canada are committed to the principle of making equalization payments to ensure that provincial governments have sufficient revenues to provide reasonably comparable levels of public services and reasonably comparable levels of taxation." Equalization was supposed to be a nation-building program designed to ensure programs and services across the country are delivered equitably. Today, that is not the case. Consider Newfoundland and Labrador services over 500 communities across a massive, geographically dispersed and aging population along 29,000 kilometres of coastline, the longest coastline of any province in this country, yet the cost of providing services is not considered as part of the formula. To meet the objectives of the program, it is only just and fair that consideration of the cost of providing services be considered. Equalization addresses variations in provincial revenue-raising capacity, but does not account for expenditure need differences or variation in costs of providing services across provinces. Provinces differ in their ability to provide reasonably comparable levels of public services because they must spend different amounts to offer similar services due to the diseconomies of scale, differences in demographics such as age, health, and income, and environmental factors such as geographically dispersed population like we have here in the province, with our communities connected by almost 10,000 kilometres of roads. According to Statistics Canada, Newfoundland and Labrador is one of the most remote of the 10 provinces by a significant margin. This is based on the average index of remoteness of the 372 census subdivisions in the province. Approximately 45% of residents live in rural areas. Almost 90% of the over 500 communities in the province have less than 1,000 people. This has a significant impact on the delivery of services throughout our province. The cost of providing transportation, health care, and education, operating and maintaining infrastructure related to these services is an ongoing challenge. The sufficient revenues required to provide reasonably comparable levels of public services is differently affected by the cost to deliver services, which varies considerably among provinces. Yet the equalization formula does not take into account this. Considering expenditure need in the equalization formula would allow for a better comparison of provincial capacity to provide services at comparable tax rates and is pivotal in improving the equity of the program. Including expenditure need is feasible, and many other countries have included the concept in their equalization formulas. A couple of examples would include Australia and Denmark, but there are many others that have this concept included in their transfer programs. We are asking that costs to provide services to the people of Newfoundland and Labrador be reflected in the equalization formula. We are also seeking consistency as to how resource revenue is treated in the equalization formula. In one part of the formula, only a portion of resource revenues is included. However, in another part of the formula, 100% of resource revenue is included to determine the fiscal capacity cap on equalization payments. Newfoundland and Labrador and other resource-based provinces are disadvantaged by the inclusion of 100% of resource revenue in the calculation of the fiscal capacity cap. We're doing the work required to diversify our economy. We're decarbonizing, building new industries, greening our economy, and embracing technology. Yet we're penalized for developing our natural resources. The current formula penalizes Newfoundland and Labrador for such things like renewable energy and wind development, including green hydrogen. It's also important to recognize that while our province does receive revenues from our resources, many of which are non-renewable, we must also pay the costs for development, regulation, and management of our resource sectors, and these costs are not considered in the formula. Our resources sector are also subject to commodity price fluctuations, which impacts revenue certainty. Finally, we also have concerns regarding the distribution of any excess funds once entitlements have been determined. Equalization funding not required to equalize the fiscal capacity of provinces is currently only distributed to provinces receiving equalization. We side with other provinces, for example, Alberta, that this excess funding should be distributed to all provinces rather than to only provinces receiving equalization. We have lobbied, encouraged, spoken, written, and pressed the Government of Canada about this on numerous occasions, but our concerns have not been addressed. Newfoundland and Labrador is seeking to have the federal government fix the equalization program so that it functions as constitutionally intended. Until the federal government recognizes the inherent inequity in the equalization program as it currently stands, Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, and indeed all Canadians, will continue to be disadvantaged. This is about what is fair, just, and right within the context of equalization provision in our Constitution. Minister Hogan will now explain the next step in gaining that fairness.
Thank you, Minister Cody. Before getting into what will be happening next regarding the legal process, I feel there's an important point I have to make here. And it's a point that I've been making throughout my legal career as a lawyer and now as Attorney General for the province. Going to court is the last option. Settlements reached out of court are always preferred, and I've always advised my clients to consider out-of-court settlements. And that's what Premier Furey, Minister Cody, and our government have been trying to do. They've advocated for changes to this formula to make the formula fair. The federal government knows where we stand. There is a record of letters and meetings that lay out very clearly what our position is. What Minister Cody stated earlier is that position, and that has been consistently presented to the Government of Canada. When the federal government recently extended the equalization formula until 2029 and did not take our province's position into account, we realized that the last option, the court option, is now our only option. In the coming weeks, we will file documents in the Newfoundland and Labrador Supreme Court. We will lead evidence about the unfair effects the current equalization formula has on Newfoundland and Labrador. The federal government will put forward their position, and we look forward to hearing what they have to say. Formal notices will be given to all provinces and territories who may want to make submissions as well. But today is about doing what's best and what's fair for every Newfoundlander and Labradorian, making it clear that we believe the current formula is unconstitutional. Minister Cody has expressly laid out our position. This is about what's fair in this country and what's right for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians.